The following is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Welcome into Taking Care of Business. Today it's Friday, which means it can only be Senior Solutions with Matt Heiar.
Yes.
And what a perfect time to come in. There was some big news. I know you're a Packer fan. Obviously, you've got the shirt on.
Oh, yes.
And some really big news hitting yesterday, late last night, and 23 years, 23rd pick. We get a wide receiver. Now, you've been a Packer fan for a while, obviously,
yes.
From the area.
Born and raised.
Did you have any special feelings about this one, Matt Heiar?
Not at all, because I've just been let down so many times. You know, it's like, oh, this guy's available, and then we get like a guard, you know, and it's
right.
But those are needed also too. But it was, we've just been on this streak of defensive picks, so I just assumed it would be another defensive player. And when I saw that, I was shocked. But it's a draft, you know, so they haven't played one NFL practice, let alone a game. So we'll have to see. But yeah, it's exciting to think about football in this time, because it's a while before we get to watch a Packer game. But yeah, I'm really excited, and we'll have to see.
I feel like, if nothing else, it was a great way to make sure that the Packers were center focus for a lot of the news immediately afterwards.
Oh, yes. And just seeing the familiar faces, you know, the Clay Matthews and stuff, and just how many people. We were just talking before we got on here, 205,000.
Yeah.
Yikes. That is a lot of people.
And it means a lot of people traveling, a lot of people, you know, on the go, doing what they got to do. And all age categories, which is phenomenal. I don't know if we were talking the other day on the morning show whether or not we'd been at any major events that had that kind of crowd size. And I could think of a few in Vegas, but they were really crammed in there. Sardines in a can.
Yes. And I do not admire that. That's not my cup of tea, is crowded places like that. But it's an experience, and it's just really cool that we made history, and it's also in Green Bay. So it's kind of unique. I like it.
I like it as well. But, of course, we're not here just to talk Packers.
Oh,
we're
yes.
here to talk about some other stuff, you know, that we like to talk about. And that is Heiar Insurance, what you guys do for the community and for the residents of the community. For anybody who hasn't tuned into the show before, which I don't know why you wouldn't have, but if you haven't, explain how they would know you and a little bit about Heiar Insurance.
Yeah, so we help out the community with health, life, and retirement. You know, so we'll help you with your Medicare supplements, Advantage plans, marketplace insurance if you're under 65, helping people life insurance, burial insurance. Also, retirement planning, income planning, 401k rollovers. And then we also have our estate planning with Rob, which he was on Monday.
He was?
Yep. So the lawyer, he helps out with, you know, your wills and trust and power of attorneys, you know, just all things, you know, for retirement that they don't teach us. You know, like, when do I turn my Social Security on? How do I turn my Social Security on? Is there going to be Social Security? And that has been, you know, kind of in the news, obviously, a lot lately. People are coming in saying, I'm turning it on because it's going to be gone. And it's not. Right. But, you know, if you are 62 years old, that's when you're first eligible to turn it on. But we have to make some decisions whether, you know, we do a test basically, and it's the widowed spouse test. We want to make sure, if you're married, that there's one larger than the other one. And then also, are you working? Because if you're working, you can only make about $23,400 a year. So if you're not making that and you have one much larger than the other one, yeah, we'll turn it on. And we do that. I had a little problem yesterday. We were setting someone up an account, and it just wasn't working. It said, like, we cannot create an account for the Social Security number you provided us. And I was like,
looking at the card, and we're like, this is right. It's
I was
correct.
like, are you sure this is yours? He didn't have a card,
Okay.
But he's like, are you sure this is your Social Security number? He's like, ever since I've been born, you know. And then we called the Social Security office, and it was just the website was down. So there's always surprises.
Sigh of relief.
Well, and if you do have an account, that would be great, because sometimes when you come in, I'm signing up for Social Security, we're all ready to go, and then they don't have an account, which is fine. And the majority of the times we'll, you know, create an account for you, but sometimes things like that happen. Or else we've had it where we're on the final step of signing you up or creating the account, and then they say, well, just to verify who you are, we're going to mail you a letter. and it's the final step, like a verification code, and it's going to come in 15 to 20 days.
Right.
So that's why if we could somehow get that done before, and I know it's difficult, so if you're not, if you don't know computers that well,
Right.
obviously we can make the attempt. But it just it stinks sometimes when you're like, oh, I really wanted to help you guys out, but it's just their checks and balances. So, but yeah, signing up for Social Security is a big thing that they do not teach us. They don't teach us anything. We have booklets if you want to stop by and just get a booklet to, kind of educate yourself a little bit, or just come in, schedule an appointment. We can just kind of go over it and talk. And we do not charge for signing up for Social Security. A lot of people think that too, and it's like absolutely not. I'm just doing it because I do it all the time, and it's just easier. And I always tell people you can yell at me if it's wrong then.
Right. It's always good to have somebody to blame when things don't go the way you want it to. I do want to remind people that if they want to call the office there at Heiar Insurance, 920-887-0580.
Correct.
Give a call, and the team there will be more than happy to answer your questions. If you want a question answered right now, you can reach out to us at 920-887-9595. That's the talk and text line, so you can feel free to text in as well if you'd like. And our producer, Jeff Hall, is waiting on hand to read those texts to us if you decide to go that route. I want to touch on something. Lately, I had a great conversation with some family about the word insurance. And it's one of those words where it seems like every time somebody says it in a conversation, everybody tenses up. It's a scary thought. The insurance is one of those things that's very complicated. It's hard to navigate through, be that your medical insurance, your life insurance, whatever the case may be. And it can be very hard to have conversations about it without people coming in with a lot of preconceptions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so especially with like medical insurance, right? So you work for GKB, right?
Right.
And they're like, this is the insurance you get. And you're like, okay, you can't go shop it.
Right.
This is just the way it is.
It's like, all right, that's it.
Yep. And then when you get a bill, you're like, okay, insurance paid this and I pay this. And it is what it is. So now when we have the opportunity to go out and seek insurance when we retire, what do I do? Especially when you turn 64 years old, they find you. You're what we call a celebrity.
Oh,
Your
wonderful.
mailbox fills up. And so some people, especially, we're living in a technology, like the techie switch, right? Where basically people are like, oh, well, I'm going to do a little research. So I'm going to go on Medicare's website. So they go on Medicare, and the first site that pops up is Medicare.com, not Medicare.gov. .gov
Very
is,
different sites.
Yes.
Okay.
.gov is government website. .com, they will find you. If you type anything in, and you think it looks like a legitimate site, and it is, but it's for some broker, that sells all these different insurances, which is fine, but they stalk you. Like one person said they typed in their phone number and their name and address or something, and they clicked submit, and they got a phone call like 2 minutes later. And it was a solicitation. Now, it could have been just a solicitation
Right.
in general because of their age. But so like people are trying to educate themselves, but basically the media is making it more difficult.
Right.
You got to try this product. You got to try this product. And my biggest recommendation is, going with someone local, because you will have questions. You will use this insurance.
Right.
It's not homeowners insurance where it's like, I'll just pay out of pocket. I don't want to have a claim. No, it doesn't work that way with this. So, you will be using this. You will have questions, and you want to go somewhere local and talk to the same person that you purchased this from and said, all right, what's going on? What do we do? And typically it's like, oh, you just do this. Oh, okay,
Right.
But it's just having that peace of mind. And another thing is you want an independent agent. What is that?
Right.
An independent agent, they have multiple carriers. Because especially with the Advantage plans and the marketplace insurance, it's 1-year contracts. So maybe next year this plan's better. Maybe next year this plan's better. But having that option, because if you have a major carrier, send you a solicitation and it's just for their brand, I wonder what they're going to try to sell you.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
And it could be great. It could be the best things sliced bread. But we want to make sure and just evaluate all the different ones, and that's for nerds like me that do that. So there isn't a right or wrong answer. When you come in, we educate you. We are not pushing. There's no sales tactics or the deal ends tomorrow.
Right.
I try to put people's guard down right away, and we just educate you on how Medicare works, your different options, and basically when it comes to Medicare, you can do an Advantage plan or a supplement. That's it.
Right.
And they are designed bipolar opposite. So like there's the Advantage plan, which zero free. You hear that, and they're 1-year contracts. So Joe Namath's on TV, that's when it's time. But every time you doctor, it's a copay.
Right.
And we keep adding those copays up until we reach our max out of pocket. Once we hit our max out of pocket, 100% coverage, just like group insurance.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, you have a supplement where you pay a premium, but when you doctor, you have less out of pocket. So either you pay a premium or you pay no premium, but you're going to end up paying either way. But it's just the supplements there's no copays, there's no prior authorizations. You can pick your surgeons, pick your facilities, pick where you want your physical therapy at, and it's a policy. You don't have to renew it every year. But they go up. So that's why I can't push one, and people are like, I heard bad things about Advantage plans. And that's not true. There are some terrible plans out there. Like in Dodge County this year, there's 38 plans, 38 Advantage plans. And we don't have enough time to go through 38 plans, but we just educate you on how they work because they're all very, very similar. So that's why Medicare alone this year is $185. So to be on Medicare, before you pick anything, $185 a month. And that comes out of your Social Security, or else if you're not on Social Security, they will bill you quarterly. So that's where we start. And then if people are like, whoa, $185, my Social Security is already tiny. That's really going to take a hit. Well, then we're probably leaning towards an Advantage plan, right? We don't want any additional premiums. But if you're like, oh, that's not bad. I was paying $600 before, maybe a supplement might be better. So we pick these plans by affordability, comfort with the plan, the networks, the doctors, and the style of plan, and our health. So that's why even like if you and your wife came in, one might be better for you, one might be better for her, because we all answer those questions differently. So to say because people are like, well, what do you think I should do? It's like, no, that means I didn't educate you enough.
Right.
I want you to pick what's best for you. And it's so funny when you have a husband and wife come in and like the husband will just look over like, what do you think I should do? And like there's always one person that handles the bills or the insurance.
Right.
So, but we want you to understand why you chose this and what was the reason. And that's my ultimate goal. So that's why I put their guard down by come on in. I'll educate you on both of them. I'll give you some literature on both of them. We're not making a decision today. Let's get the Medicare. We have to sign up for Medicare no matter what. So let's do the government stuff. Let that, start to get processed. And then you can come back in, write questions down. We can look at other companies too. But I try to simplify it as much as possible.
Right.
And I know that's why everyone comes in. Okay, crazy question here. Or this might sound dumb. No, they do not teach us this.
Right.
And that's why Medicare is so frustrating, and you get bombarded with all this information and rules and penalties and time frames where you have to sign up or else it's over. You missed your time, and it seems scary, but we try to lay it out step by step, and you make the decision, not us.
Now, when I have insurance through work, I have it's single or married or family. Mm-hmm. And when the family is no longer needed to be covered, it becomes married. And then if something were to happen to the spouse, it becomes single. But why doesn't Medicare have a spousal option where it's,
That's a great question, actually. I mean, we're technically separate entities, because we're all paying in Medicare tax.
Right.
So, and I think our health and needs for healthcare are different. Like between my mom and dad, my dad, he's like, I was healthy until I went to the doctor. He never went to the doctor.
Right.
So like maybe this plan might have been better for him. And my mom, she does the preventative measures and she goes to the doctor and, maybe a different plan would be better for her. So I think it's just a versatility because essentially if you pick the same plan, you're almost on the same plan. Right. You and 100,000 other people on that block of business. But I think it just gives us another option because, like with yours, Typically, group insurance has like two options. You can pick the high deductible plan,
Right.
or you can pick the lower deductible, and it's like a copay plan, but it's more expensive out of your check.
Right.
So majority of people nowadays are picking the high deductible. But it all depends on our health and the carriers and stuff. So that's why the one thing that people say, they're like, oh, I have this company, I want this company. And they're great, but group insurance is 100% different than Medicare. So why would you limit yourself just to this network of doctors? Because who knows? In retirement, we're going to travel.
Right.
We're going to go visit the grandkids. What if you want to go have that surgeon that's out of network? You can. You have the ability to. But if you pick an HMO, that means their network, their specialists, their doctors, and their facilities, which is fine, but why limit ourselves to that?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. If I'm somebody who, I hit the right age, mailbox starts filling up, I'm a celebrity now, and I'm reading through the pamphlets, which you should at least look through, and I find one that I think, oh my God, this is the one. Mm-hmm. This is the attractive plan. This is what I want. And I come walking and I see it and I'm like, Matt Heiar, just give me that. Is it that simple, or are you going to still show them options comparatively?
Absolutely, I'll show you options, because I'll show you because a lot of the solicitations they're like, oh, it's got a gym membership. It's got dental, so you're like, I want this. Absolutely. This is what I had at group insurance. And then I get the literature out and it says, well, you get one cleaning per year. I'm like, where do you go to the dentist? And they tell me, I'm like, your dentist doesn't take this. So on the paper, it looks fabulous.
Right.
But it's much different. We have to look at the fine details. And if your dentist takes it and it makes sense, absolutely, let's do it. But I'm still going to educate you rather than just, okay, sure, that's what you want? Absolutely. And, because there could be different situations. So we're not prying,
Right.
well, so how's your health? I mean, I do ask a lot of people, are you doctoring a lot? And they're like, well, no, I just go, to my yearly. Okay. And that's important. Or no, I have a hip replacement next month. Well, that might skew our decision.
Right.
And then we also like, the repercussions. If you pick this plan, and then you come back in a year and you're like, I don't like this plan, I want that plan. There could be health underwriting, health questions, and they might deny you. So, and that's not fear-mongering you to take one or
Right.
the other. I just don't want to see you in the grocery store and you're like, you never told me I couldn't get back on that if I didn't do this. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why just educating, and it's a lot. It's a whirlwind for people. So I'm like, did I confuse you enough? And they're like, oh, yeah. And you don't have to memorize all this stuff. That's why you go to somewhere local to have an advocate for you that I can call, the insurance company. I can check your claims, with obviously your permission. But we're there for you,
Right.
and that's the biggest thing when it comes to health insurance, having an advocate to help you do that and decide what is best for you individually.
And that's really helpful because when you call in insurance companies, sometimes they'll throw words at you that are very much industry jargon. You don't know what it is, but you guys are used to that. You're trained in that. You've studied it. So, if they use a big word that we're like, huh? You're like, no, it's fine. They're just talking about your deductible. They're talking about this.
Oh, yes. It's, well, and
Like a translator.
And sometimes you do need a translator when you're calling these, nationwide companies, because it's like, it's hard to understand. And when you want answers, and you can't even understand them just in general, that's frustrating, or waiting on hold. You know how many different elevator music songs I listen to? Sometimes I'll just do all my emails while I'm just sitting on hold, but that you leave that to us. You don't have to do that.
Right.
If you have a problem, you call us, and it's not always a problem. It just might be a question. I would much rather sum up a 30-second, conversation to answer your question rather than you coming into the office saying, so I just did this. And it's like, uh-oh.
Right.
But anything can be fixed. It's, and we don't need, like, people lose sleep over this. And it's like, you do not need to lose sleep.
Right.
Let's just do the government stuff, get Medicare signed up, because we know that has to happen no matter what. Then we can move forward with the plans and show you literature, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Before I ask my next question, I'm going to give the disclaimer.
Yeah, the boy.
There we go. This is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Reminder, if you want to call into the show because you have a question specifically for Matt Heiar, and he may be able to answer it right off the top of his head, but if not, he'll tell you how you can find out more. You can give us a call at 920-885-4446 or call or text us at 920-887-9595. I had a discussion with somebody recently about making that transition from having not only working and or having insurance through a spouse and then transitioning into Medicare. And in their case, they have a pre-existing health thing that's been going on for about 4 or 5 years that they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, if I switch to Medicare, are they going to deny stuff because it's pre-existing? But I have to get, I'm supposed to turn on or access. So how's that fair? Or is that a problem? Or are they going to deny? And that was kind of the thought they had running through their head.
That's a great question. So with Advantage plans, the one option, there's 0 health questions. So I legally can't ask you any health questions. You're in. So now the supplement, you get 1 shot. And that's when you turn 65 or when you first go on Medicare. So you could be 80, if you kept working.
Right.
Please don't do that. But yes, so that is one of the things we educate you on. Like if you take that Advantage plan for a couple of years and you're like, all of a sudden 3 years later, it's really high out of pocket. The co-pays get expensive. So you come back and you're like, I want to go to that supplement now because I'm having a lot of doctoring going on. And that's typically when people do come in, when they start occurring a lot of cost. Well, we have to answer health questions. Not saying you can't, but
right.
That's an important thing, and I don't want to have that conversation with you at that time. So that does go into, in fact, now if you took the supplement and you're on it and you're like, hey, I got my hip replaced, got my shoulder replaced, not really doctored, not really traveling much, I want to go to the Advantage plan. Okay, 0 health questions. I'll see you October 15th to December 7th. We'll sign you up for a January 1st start date. And it's cut and dry. So that's why you have to show people their options, both options. Like if I work for one company and all they do is supplements, well, guess what? You're just getting a supplement. But what if it's too expensive for you? And same with Advantage plans. If I just did Advantage plans and I never showed you a supplement, people are missing out on potentially that might have been a better situation for their health.
Right.
So, and the popular thing when it comes to what I've been seeing a lot more lately is what we call Medicare Part B drugs. B as in boy.
Okay.
So those are infusions, injections. It's too expensive to pick up at the pharmacy, so we're going to the doctor and they're administering it through an IV. Mm-hmm. And those are very, very expensive because obviously they're new and innovative. Well, that cost is a lot, but on a supplement, it's run through the health insurance. So, and it's same with the Advantage plan, but you're paying a percentage of the cost, and we have larger maximum out-of-pockets. So it's so situational, and that's why do a lot of spouses pick the same plans? Yes, just it's a comfort. We've had it our whole life, but that does not mean we have to. And I try to talk, I try to tell people you do not have to pick the same thing, just because they are different. And sometimes the second spouse picks a different plan, and then all of a sudden, a couple years later, the first original spouse comes in like, hey, I kind of like what they have. Can I go to that? Sure. And we do. So is there a right answer? No. And that's why you don't have to feel silly. We do complimentary consultations. So it's not like you're going to get charged or anything. And just because you don't know a lot about it, that's everyone.
Right.
Only nerds like me that know this stuff. So it's, I know a lot of people are like, I don't like meeting in person. We can have a phone conversation. Absolutely. I would much rather have a phone conversation with you than you calling some 1-800 number for someone we have no idea who we're talking to. Right. And they have one goal in mind. Get rid of that product because they will never talk to you again.
Yeah, I can only imagine you call up and you get somebody who maybe isn't trained, doesn't have the experience, and you ask them a question and they're Googling it because they don't know the answer. And
yep. I mean, I have about usually 5 to 10 per year where people come in January, February, and they're like, I just got this welcome letter from this company. I'm like, yeah, that looks like you're signed up with this now. And they're like, no, I talked to someone, but I didn't give them any banking information or anything. They don't need your banking information. The Advantage plans are $0. They need your Medicare number and your Medicare number only, and they can sign you up. Even if, and they're like, I told them I wanted to wait. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's very frustrating, especially trying to get you out of them then. But that's why going somewhere, if you talk to someone, never give out your Medicare number. That is your Social Security number for your health. And that's how Medicare fraud is happening. You know, if people are giving out their Medicare number, because there was a nice fellow that was talking about back braces. Well, we don't need back braces. We only give our Medicare number to pharmacists, doctors, specialists, you know, healthcare providers.
Right. And people who are also bound by those, HIPAA stuff and rules and confidentiality and all that other stuff, as opposed to random guy on phone.
Yes, and the most frustrating scam lately has been they're calling and saying, did you get your Medicare card? And obviously, the person 75 years old, they're like, yeah, I've had it for 10 years. Like, did you get your new one? You know, and they're like,
Right.
whoa, what new one?
It's new.
And they're saying it's plastic because the Medicare card you give you, which is frustrating, by the way, is paper.
Kind of like Social Security card.
Yes.
It's paper.
And
Okay.
have you ever seen a Prestige Social Security card?
No. Besides from a family member who decided to laminate theirs, which I'm like, you aren't supposed to do.
Right.
I think it even says don't laminate, but way to go.
Yeah, and that's so Medicare cards end up looking like that too. And you can order a new Medicare card through Medicare.gov, but yeah, that seems like it makes sense. You know, like, oh, plastic, that makes
Right.
sense. You know, that's probably easier and they probably last longer.
And if we had group insurance through an employer, those were plastic cards in
Yes.
most cases.
I know, and so people are giving their Medicare number. That's all they need. And you might not get the back braces, but they could be charging something to your health ID.
Right.
And then we got to call the Medicare fraud line, fraud, waste, and abuse line. And I've never seen an outcome. Like, we give them the information, you told them the number that called, we told them what they said, and that's it. And then they investigate it.
Right.
But I've never heard what happens. Does anything happen?
Right.
Or is it just another tick in the bucket? Like, it's really frustrating, and that's why we do not give our Medicare numbers out. They used to be Social Security numbers back in the day.
Right.
And I almost wish they would keep that.
Because we knew not to, we were taught very early on, don't
Yes,
give that out.
Absolutely. And, and this is a generation that, a handshake was a contract.
Right.
And people would come to your house and knock on the door and, they'd offer services or products and, you'd buy it.
Yeah.
And it was-
vacuums, knives, and
Yep.
clean my carpets. you know?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Can't forget that.
Right.
But yeah, it's, and that wasn't a scam, right? They had a quality product and people liked it and perfect. I just got one and it's just different nowadays, So the only people that I'm purchasing things from that are coming to my door, Girl Scouts. I have a soft spot for that. I mean,
Right.
those cookies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be coming up soon, I think.
I think it might be almost over now. I think we might have missed it for this year.
What?
Yeah. And I know I've seen them out at a few of the retail establishments, and it used to be I could kind of be like, well, I don't ever carry cash, so sorry, I don't have cash. Now they take card, they check. I'm waiting for them to accept blood donations. Something's going to happen.
That's good.
For people out there who are like, well, why do I need to even look at an Advantage plan, a supplement plan, or a drug plan, Part B drug, if I'm already getting Medicare, if I'm paying enough insurance?
Well, technically, it is. You do have some coverage, So Medicare covers 80% of cost. So if you have $100,000 surgery, yeah, they'll pay $80,000, but someone's got to pay $20,000.
Right.
And that's going to be you. And then another thing is you have to have one of the reasons you get penalized. There's two reasons. One, for not signing up for Medicare at the right time, which you're on Medicare, you did it. But the other one is not having credible prescription drug coverage. So they had to put a penalty on this because so many people, just because you're 65 doesn't mean you're on all these medications.
Right.
So a lot of people were just like, well, I'm not on medication. I don't need a drug plan. So then all of a sudden, health scare, something happens. Well, I need a drug plan now. It's almost like crashing your car and saying,
Right.
Can I get insurance quick? So, I mean, there's drug plans that are $0 a month, so it's not like it's a burden. We just have to have something. And if you go 63 days without having credible prescription drug coverage, they penalize you 1% per month. So if you come back 10 years later, you're going to pay 120% more than the average person. And so it's very important to make sure we have drug coverage. And another thing with the drug coverage, because I have people come in, they're like, yep, I want this plan just like my husband, and I'm good to go. It's this much money. All right. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, now we need a drug plan. And then they start telling me their drug list. And I've hearing commercials on TV from these medications they're telling me. And, we got a problem. These are very expensive medications.
Right.
And they're like, well, no, I have a copay card and I paid nothing for it. Yes, those copay cards are made through the manufacturer, and they typically are only good for group insurance, commercially insured clients, which is group insurance. But once we go on Medicare, that's a government plan. That's different. So we're going to pay some. Now, January 1st, the Inflation Reduction Act of 22, one of the final steps of it was January 1st of 25, you can't spend more than $2,000 on prescription medications. All right, win.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
$2,000.
And that's 2,000 combined, right? Not
Yes.
like on a single med.
Yes.
Okay.
Combined. But still, a lot of people do not pay that, even near that.
Right.
But now you start talking a bunch of these name brand medications. Oh yeah. I mean, there's medications that are $1,000 a month. And the big one is these GLP-1s.
Oh yeah, the Ozempics.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Every commercial you see on TV,
It's all over Facebook,
those are
YouTube, everywhere.
Those are $1,000 a month.
It's insane.
Yikes. And so then Medicare came out also January 25 is the MPPP. It's like the Medicare Prescription Payment Plan. I know. Love acronyms.
Yeah.
So basically what you can do is if you know you're going to hit that $2,000 threshold, you can call your prescription drug company and say, yes, I'd like to get on the MPPP. I think I got enough P's in there. But basically what they do is they'll divide it out. It comes to about $158 a month that you'll be paying, that you pay to them. And then when you go pick up your meds, it'll be zero. So, because once you hit that $2,000 threshold, your medications go to zero.
Right.
So that's why, but then the person is like, oh, I'm paying more for my prescription drugs than I am for my health insurance. And it's frustrating. So, and a lot of these people, I don't feel like they know that they're name brand drugs.
Right.
The doctor prescribed it, So like knowing what you're taking is a big deal too. Knowing the cost. Is that a generic? I mean, simple questions like that in a doctor's office, it can't hurt.
Right.
I know quality of life, obviously. So if that doctor's probably not going to like me, but like if, why wouldn't we try a generic first? If it doesn't work, okay, quality of life. We know it's going to be more money, but that's where we have to reach that threshold. And I feel like a lot of people just don't know what they're taking, or know the expense of it. And that's why it's very important when we get to Medicare, because there's 14 government contract prescription drug plans. So we type in your meds, where you go to the pharmacy, whatever's the cheapest, like overall out-of-pocket cost, that's what we go with. So there's no like, oh, we like this plan or this company's better. Nope. It's because a lot of people do that. Oh, I want the same one as my husband. Right. And it's like, well, you're on different medications. And sometimes it works out. But these are one-year contracts. So in the fall, you get a book of changes. It says in 25, you paid this. 26, it's going to be this. Your copay for this is that now. Now it's going to be this. So if you do nothing, it just rolls right over. So I recommend calling us.
Right.
And you'll know when to call us. You can't even watch a Packer game without Joe Namath on TV.
It's everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. So the supplement plans, you can you shouldn't, but you can almost kind of set it and forget it. If you like it, you're good. You can just let it run.
It's a policy.
It's a policy. The Advantage plans, that's a yearly
contract.
Yep. The Part B drug plan, also a contract?
Yes, 1-year contract also.
Okay. And so those are the ones where people are coming to see you periodically, or I shouldn't say periodically, but there's a window every year where people come see you and get those set up. And then they always go into effect then January 1st, right?
Correct.
Sometimes there's weird extended windows. Are we in a weird extended window now that we need to worry about?
Just ended the weird extended window.
Okay.
That was January 1st to March 31st, which is the open enrollment period. And that's where you can go from Advantage Plan to Advantage Plan.
Okay.
Like you got bamboozled into, a plan that they said was better than what you had, and it wasn't, and you can switch back to your plan then.
Now, I want to touch a little bit on, while we have time to do so, we talked a little bit about kind of how fraud works and how people become aware of that. I know with my current insurance, if I go see a doctor for anything, guaranteed within a couple of weeks, I'm going to get something in the mail that says, here's what we covered. And it might also say, this is not a bill. Or it might say, this is what your doctor may bill you or whatever. And give me that information. Is that people are still getting that if they end up in one of these situations where somebody, secretly under the table is ordering them, 25 back braces?
Yes, absolutely. So it's what we call, so this is not a bill,
right,
which is a great thing to see, right?
Right.
That's what we call explanation of benefits. So they're explaining data service, diagnostic codes, what was done, the doctor you saw, so if you're getting an EOB, explanation of benefits, and it's like, I didn't go to the ER. I didn't see this doctor, and I didn't order back braces. That's when we're calling the Medicare fraud line, and they're going to have to issue you a new Medicare number, basically. But yeah, that's really important. So you still do get EOBs, and EOBs are clear as mud.
Wonderful.
Yes, because your providers send them out when you go to the doctor, monthly usually.
Right.
But Medicare sends their EOBs out quarterly. So if you have something done late March, you went to the doctor, whatever, you're going to get, it'll be on your EOB,
right,
but it'll say Medicare paid $0. And you're like, well, this was denied, and it's not denied. It's just not processed yet. So I get that call all the time,
right,
and then they'll look at it from the carriers, and they'll be like, well, it says Medicare paid $0. I'm like, yeah, it's not processed yet. So we keep these EOBs for filing purposes, but they don't make sense a lot of times.
Right.
So creating an account on Medicare.gov, government website, is a cool way. We're still going to mail them to you, but it's just really nice to stay up on that, because with the Medicare fraud, the only way we can stop Medicare from going up drastically like it's been is to stop this fraud that's happening. And we're kind of the culprits. I mean, obviously there's other situations too and stuff,
right,
but yeah, we're not helping it by any means.
Now, should people, realistically, should you be looking at those when they come in? Like, if you went to a doctor, and then you're going to see one of those show up in the mail, does it matter that I open it up and look at it and check it over, or?
No, I actually would prefer if people didn't.
Okay.
Because keep them, right?
Right.
And then you're going to get a bill. And when you get a bill, and if there's something that doesn't make sense, that's when we go back to the EOBs. Or we go on the website and check it out and see what was done and how they coded it. Because when people start reading it, some people don't read this is not a bill, so they think it's a bill. And then other times, it's so the verbiage is it's even confusing for me.
Right.
It's like medical,
right,
lingo and stuff. So it's a lot, to take in, and it stresses people out sometimes, even me. Just like when we get letters from the government, it says, like I just had one the other day, it says you're no longer eligible for disability. That's a very important thing for someone, Right. Obviously they're on disability for a reason.
Right. And
they panicked. And they came in, they're like, what's going on here, And I'm like, oh, how old are you? And they're like, they told me their age. I'm like, yep. So technically, when you're on disability, like say me, I'm on disability. My full retirement age is 67 years old. So when I turn 67, they're going to send me a letter say, you're not eligible for disability anymore. They basically call it Social Security now.
Yeah.
Because obviously once you hit your full retirement age, I can't be 68 years old and apply for disability.
Right.
Because I'm over the full retirement age. So, but the letter didn't say that. It just said you're denied or you're
right,
no longer eligible, which is scary for someone. So that's why luckily I've gotten that letter before. So I was like, oh yeah, you're good.
Right.
Quick appointment.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but disability and Social Security are kind of linked in a way, right?
Correct.
So I know my sister, who's deaf, she gets SSDI.
Yep,
I think is the official acronym. We
Yep.
love our acronyms.
I like it.
And so, we've talked before, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is what I get, every month or whatever." And I remember when I was young and dumb, I was like, "Why is my sister getting a paycheck? She doesn't do anything. Like, what is this for?" And obviously now that I'm older, I understand better. But those are linked together, so it makes sense that they're like your classification has changed.
Yep, they're run through the same program of Social Security. So that's why it's if it makes sense. Now applying for disability, I can't help you with that. It's just because you go down a rabbit hole.
Right.
They're asking for doctor's notes. So some people do get attorneys and stuff because it's so much more elaborate. When the date of incident, when did you become disabled, why, and it's like I just wouldn't feel comfortable.
Right.
I can explain it to you, but I just wouldn't feel comfortable signing someone up because that is just way above my means, and that's why they get lawyers for it.
Right. Now, maybe an odd question, but
No such thing.
huh? We'll see. So if somebody, let's say you're in your mid-20s, so you haven't had a lot of work experience under your belt, you could still log on to socialsecurity.gov. And again, .gov for everything.
Yep.
And get the account, look at it, see kind of where you're at, and see how your things are doing, see what your projected Social Security is going to be. Well, let's say you become disabled. Are those numbers the same?
Well, yeah, like technically. So if you go on yours right now, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it'll say what your disability amount would be, which is your projected amount at full retirement. So that's what it is. It's not anybody's fault that they're on disability. Obviously, there's a reason.
Right.
So
you're not getting penalized because you didn't make it to.
Not at all. That's why you're essentially getting your full retirement amount. Like if you went on disability today, you'd be getting the amount that you'd be getting at 67. And that's because we're only on disability.
Right.
So it's there's about 9 million people on disability in the United States. So, but that's like all the myths of too many people are on disability and this and that. It's no. The financial strength of Social Security is still fine.
Right.
Then people are like, well, people are living longer. And it's like, yep, but they always have been.
Right.
And then the government stole from it. And it's like, nope, the government they've borrowed from it.
Right.
But obviously, like they borrow from a lot of our different funds and stuff. So Social Security is going to be fine. So we don't want you to be feared into like, oh, I got to turn on 62 just because I'm going to quit. I won't work anymore.
Right.
One great fix that I would love to see happen, obviously no tax on Social Security. That'd be great.
Right.
Believe it when I see it. Kind of one of those deals.
Right.
But the working wages. Like I think if you want to collect Social Security at 62 and still work, why not?
Right.
But for some reason they're like, nope, you can only make $23,400. And I don't know. I just think that's why. If you want to collect your Social Security early, you're only getting 75% of your benefit.
Right.
You should be able to work still too, because you're going to pay taxes out of it.
Right.
So that'd be a cool change, but changed in the government, it's
Right.
Yeah.
We know how that goes.
it's like recess.
Now that 23.5 that we talked about, is that one of those things where when you hit that, then they start reducing your Social Security?
Correct. So every $2 you're over, they take $1 back of Social Security. So if you made 24.5,
Right.
They would recalculate your Social Security for the following year, $500 less. Not per month, but
Right.
for the entire year.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
Not that I'm necessarily planning on holding on a lot of major jobs when I get to that point, but who knows?
Yeah.
I heard somebody say the point once as a counterpoint when they say, well, people are living longer. They also say, yeah, but there's also a heck of a lot of people who never make it to retirement age who've paid in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Social Security is funded by us working right now.
Right.
We're paying it in. Every check we have, is paid in. So 80% of the funding for yearly Social Security is from us.
Right.
So that's why it's not going anywhere. It'll be there. So we don't have to sporadically just sign up. But we could talk about it. Just give us a call at 920-887-0580.
There you go. And luckily, we're both working right now, so you're all welcome out there. No, it's an interesting. It's a conversation thing that always can lead to some some strong feelings because
Absolutely.
it's money you paid in, it's money you want back.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Remind everybody again, where do they find you guys if they want to stop in and see you? Where are you guys located? And we're going to give your number one more time just for anybody who wasn't paying attention.
Sure. We're right up the road at Heritage Mall, just next to Joann's Fabrics. You can give us a call, and there's for a complimentary consultation at 920-887-0580.
Awesome. Well, Matt Heiar, always great having you on. Very informative. One of these days, I'm going to say I'm about a tenth as much of an expert as you are at this. Well, we'll see if we ever get there. But until then, I guess the only thing left to say is...
You want to retire?
Call Heiar. This has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed on the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.